Good afternoon. It is the custom here at First UU at memorial services that we ring the Jefferson bells, which are in the lobby. And they are chimed once for each decade of the deceased member's life. Today we ring the bells 9 times in honor of the memory of Leon Andrews.
Good afternoon. I am the Reverend Sherman Z. Logan, Jr., and I have the honor of serving this congregation as the senior minister. Joining me on the chancel this afternoon are Reverend Amy Russell and Kirsten Fitz. Our faith tradition welcomes all in our doors from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. All who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, and more love. We welcome all of you this afternoon as we celebrate the life of Leon Andrews. We have gathered here in a place of human aspiration and hope to acknowledge the death of Leon, whom we have known and loved. When someone we have cared for dies, especially as in this case, after a long and fulfilling life, family and friends gather with sorrow in their hearts. At times when we must face death and loss, we need one another company for understanding and support. Just to be together, to look into one another's faces, takes away some of our loneliness and draws our hearts together in the healing which we can offer one another. At such times, the various faiths that sustains us separately come together in harmony that acts across all creeds and assures us the permanence of human goodness and hope. Each of you bring your own special memories of Leon, who touched our lives with love and friendship in many ways. So we have gathered here today in our grief and sorrow, but we have also gathered to celebrate this life well lived. We have gathered here today thankful for the days and years we're able to share with him and to remember and memorialize a good and caring life. We do so by remembering the best of Leon, by recalling some of his finer qualities, by honoring his principles, values, and dreams which guided his life. So we are grateful and blessed that Leon lived among us, and we invite his presence here among us so that we may, in our time together, call forth loving memories of him and honor his life.
I'd like to invite Ethel Andrews and Camille Andrews to come up and light our chalice while I read our chalice lighting. We light this flame as our fervent plea to brighten the dark corners of our hearts. We hold this flame, for it is in the promise of warmth for souls grown cold in loss and despair. We kindle this light that we might continue to find comfort in its warmth, strength in its light, holiness in its presence. We follow this light, that it might illuminate our search for purpose, for meaning, and for forgiveness. We light this chalice, knowing even as the sacred spark of life is extinguished, in the ensuing darkness, its light, his light, will still burn bright with all the memory and hope of its too brief flash across our lives. We light this flame of life, of love, and truth for the divine promise of healing hearts. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 29 in the gray hymnal, Joyful, Joyful.
Our reading comes from Maya Angelou. It's called When Great Trees Fall. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrinks, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold leaves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, recovered, restored, never will be the same, but they whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be be and be better, for they existed. Would you please stand as we sing our UU hymn, number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
Friends, Leon Andrews was truly a remarkable man. His journey on this earth was defined by love, hope, and an unwavering commitment to justice and integrity. And as his pastor for the past 2 years, I can attest to his faithful and devoted service to our congregation. He was a mentor, counselor, and confidant to many, and on a personal note, I can attest that Leon was always there to support me in both the good and challenging times of my ministry. Whenever we would encounter each other at church, and even when he was in the hospital, he always offered me a word of encouragement, would ask about my family, my well-being, whether there was anything I needed, or how he could support me. And on a fun note, we often teased each other about belonging to the wrong fraternity. For those who didn't know, Leon was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and I am a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. But despite being in different fraternities, we had a common bond. We're both members of a group of black fraternities insofar as he's called the Divine Nine. So Leon was not just a brother, he was a cherished friend, and that's what made our bond so special. Now, it has been said that the measure of a person is not found in material wealth or worldly accolades, but in the depth of their character, the life they shared, and the supportive impact they made on the lives of others. And Leon indeed profoundly impacted the lives he touched, including his family, his friends, and his church community. So I want to spend the next few minutes with you to share a reflection on a life rich in love, wisdom, and exemplary deeds. Today we bid farewell, but also pay homage to a legacy that will continue to inspire us all. Leon's life was anchored in love, and at the heart of Leon's being was an invisible love for his family. His family wasn't just the center of his world, but the very existence of his existence. And he embodied the idea of a loving husband to Ethel, to whom they spent 55 wonderful years together. And whenever he would mention her to me, I would see the twinkle in his eyes. They were indeed soulmates. He also was a devoted father to Camille and very proud of her accomplishments as she defied all odds. He was a supportive uncle, godfather, cousin, and caring friend to many. And his love was not confined to mere words or occasional gestures. It was a daily testament of his character. And he shows us that love is a commitment that requires effort and sacrifice, whether comforting family members, offering a listening ear, words of advice, or simply being present at family gathering. His action spoke volumes. He was the anchor and uniter of his family, and his family felt in love in the little things, the shared meals, the laughter, and the stories he told and retold and retold and retold. His love was constant, a reliable force that held family together even in life's storms, and his family was his heart, and he dedicated himself to their well-being and happiness. And Leon was also a cherished friend to many who are here today. He was dependable and trustworthy, someone his friends could count on to solve their problems and provide rational and common sense solutions. And the true measure of his friendship was seen in his daily acts of kindness, support, and care he bestowed upon his friends. His life was a testament to his unwavering faith and devotion to his church. And during his formative years, Leon accepted the Christian principles and joined St. Luke AME Zion Church, and he later found his way to First UU over a decade ago. He was devoted to his UU faith and deeply believed in its principles and values, and those values and principles were not an abstract ideal to him, but they were his guiding principles that embodied his daily life. And he became a beacon of hope and source of inspiration for many of us here at First UU. He led by example by showing faith was not just words spoken on Sundays, but action taken every day. And his dedication to First UU is clear through his involvements in the various ministries and groups that he belonged to, including his cherished men group, Black Lives UUs, and his long-term service as a volunteer for the Gallery Art Show. And his life was a living testament to the transformative power of faith and service, inspiring those around him to follow his example. He was dedicated to serving his country, his community, and he proudly served his country as an enlisted member of the U.S. Air Force during the Vietnam War. And 15 years later, he re-entered the military and joined the Army Reserves as a captain in the Medical Corps, where he honorably continued to serve in different capacities until he retired in 2001 after serving for more than 30 years with the final rank of Lieutenant Colonel. His commitment to service extended beyond his military career, and he dedicated himself to helping others through his counseling profession, where he served as a psychologist for several mental health facilities in the Richmond and Tri-City area for over 38 years. So you see, Leon had a remarkable gift for empathy and understanding, which he used him to guide countless individuals through their darkest hours. He believed in the power of listening and the importance of being heard. And he had the extraordinary ability to connect with people to understand their struggles and guidance, and offer guidance and support. And his counseling was a beacon of hope for many, providing a safe place for healing and growth. And he understood that everyone carried burdens, that sometimes we need to listen and care and offer a helping hand. So as a lay pastoral care associate here at First UU, he demonstrated boundless compassion and empathy, using these gifts to make meaningful differences in the life of countless individuals. And his legacy as a counselor is one of healing, hope, and transformation. Now, as a child of the South, Leon would often share his stories of the many obstacles and challenges that he faced growing up in a segregated racial society and the lack of respect he encountered traveling in the uniform of the country that he proudly served. And as a black man who faced the evils of racism, he was a strong advocate for justice, and he recognized that the measure of society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. And he wanted to create a more just, equitable world and promoted the ideology of diversity and unity. And he led by example by conveying the message of deliberate compassion and selflessness. Now, we all know that Leon was not content to stand on the sidelines, but actively engaged in efforts to promote equality and combat discrimination. And his involvement in First U Youth to end racism, to eliminate white supremacy practices in the faith community and the greater Richmond area was reflected in his deep belief in the worthiness and dignity of all persons. And he worked tirelessly here at First UU to raise the awareness, to educate others, and bring meaningful and lasting change. And his commitment to social justice and anti-racism led him to become an inaugural member and facilitator of Living the Pledge to End Racism workshop. And his devotion to Living the Pledge was a reflection of his deepest value and his vision to create a beloved community. Now, in some of the conversations I had with folks reflecting on their memories of Leon, one word that popped up the most was integrity. And Leon was indeed a person of integrity, and it was integral to his character. And in every aspect of his life, he strived to be honest, fair, and true to his values. And he understood that integrity is not just about doing the right thing when it's easy, but also standing firm in his values when it's difficult. And he was a man of his word that could be trusted and relied on. And his integrity was evidenced in his personal relationship, professional endeavors, community service work, and his service to our congregation. And he loved life with a deep sense of honor, always striving to do what is right and just. He not only talked the talk, but walked the walk. And you can always count on Leon to do what he said he would do. And finally, and perhaps the most defining measure of his character, was his strength and dignity in the face of his illness. During the challenges and uncertainty he faced during his illness, the times I visited him in the hospital, and during his final days at home, he never allowed his spirit to break. He approached his illness with courage that inspired me and others who knew him. And Leon showed us that true strength is not the absence of fear or pain, but the ability to face these challenges with grace and dignity. And even in his most difficult moments, he remained a source of strength and inspiration to others. And his courage to face adversity is a testament to his indomitable spirit, profound inner strength. So friends, Leon was indeed a remarkable man, and as we remember him, we are called to carry forward his legacy. We are called to love our families with the same devotion and commitment he showed. We are called to be active participants in our faith community, living our beliefs through our actions. We are called to offer support and guidance to those in need, using our gifts to make a difference in the lives of others. We are called to stand against racism and discrimination and to work tirelessly to create a more just society. We are called to face our challenges with courage and dignity and live our lives with integrity. In doing so, we honor Leon's memories and ensure that his legacy of love and hope continue to shine bright. So today, we celebrate a well-lived life that has touched and transformed so many. We find comfort in knowing that his spirit lives on in each of us, the love we share, the justice we seek, and the hope we hold for a better world. And in the words of the great poet Maya Angelou, she said, "I learned that people forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And friends, Leon made us feel loved, valued, and respected. He made us feel that we could be better, make a difference, and create a world where love and hope prevail. So let us honor his memory today by living with the same hope, devotion, and courage and integrity that Leon showed us. Let us be the light in the darkness, the hope in despair, and the love in the world. In doing so, we keep his spirit alive and ensure that his legacy endure. May this be so.
We'd like to invite Camille Leon Andrews to come up and talk about the family. And
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out, and thank you so much for your support through this difficult time. I today would like to read an open letter that Dad wrote, actually, before his illness, and also a kind of a small goodbye word. Open letter to my family, friends, neighbors, and strangers who became associates. Hi, y'all. There are two certainties of our journey from birth to death. For some, it includes the unavoidable events of death and taxes, or that other one, no one gets off this planet Earth alive and returns to tell us what's out there. So the two latter parts of both those statements may be questionable, and the mysteries that make up the cosmos, time, space, or matter may never be within our human comprehension to grasp. But this I did learn and adopt as my motto for my life. My life's trajectory has been shaped by my personality, experience, perception, behaviors, life goals, spiritual compass, and my understanding of the purpose for living. My great honor and privilege over my lifetime is to have experienced being loved as a son, brother, nephew, uncle, husband, father, cousin, friend, associate, and even stranger. This is my compelling human social contract with all of those I've had a measure of contact. Up to my death, I hope that your thoughts and memories about me will bring a smile or a good memory of my interaction with you. I tried to lead the best life that was available to me and that I was capable of demonstrating at that stage of my life. Most of us enter this planet to have encounters of a variety of types, experiences, and exposures, including joys, love, tragedies, faith, poverty, riches, despair, destitution, happiness, and more. We don't have reliable, intuitive navigation tools that are guaranteed to work in every relationship, crisis, or challenge. But we must press on, never give up, and lean into the good and bad that comes to your doorstep. And reach outside your comfort zone to hold each other when you can. I challenge you all to be compassionate, committed, and spread your resources and resilience to others who need you to lean on every now and then. In the meantime, remember me as you go about your lives. It was my privilege and pleasure to have shared my life with yours. I'll see you in the next dimensions that unfold before us all. Remember me, a goodbye word to family, friends, and associates. These are parting words to all of you who are present in this space. I promise you it will be brief, as you all know I had something to say about everything, anywhere, and anytime. So, this is my swan song, and parting words to the family I loved, the friends I committed to be loyal to, and an unrelenting associate to those who've made my life's journey richer and more purposeful. To my immediate family, Ethel, wife and love of many years, Camille, my heart and inspiration to be the best father I was capable of being. To my extended families and adopted families, you have filled in along my journey in ways I could never imagined. You have made my life richer, and I have become a better human being by my association and friendship with you. Thanks for the friendship and associations, because the human exchanges of trust, commitment, loyalty, support, and love have meant so much to me. Thank you all for allowing me the privilege of sharing this living sojourn with you.
While I'm here, I would just like to say thank you to all of you for all that you did while Leon was in the hospital, as well as after he passed. All the kind gestures, whether it was a meal, a call, or whatever it meant so much to us. And we will always cherish and remember that. So we are asking that in the months to come, that you all would just continue to keep us in your positive thoughts, in your prayers. And we will continue to be in touch with you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay.
Ethel and Camille, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your family during that time. Being able to visit Leon in the hospital or at home, you always graciously welcomed us. So thank you so much, and we will always keep you in our prayers. This is a time in our wonderful services in which we invite those of you who want to share a brief story or memory about Leon to come forward and use this mic here, but I will start. I was so lucky to get to know Leon in my brief 2.5 years here as he worked as one of our lay pastoral care associates, and he came to our monthly meetings on Zoom, of course, and of course Ethel had to help him with the Zoom, couldn't quite get that. But when he came, he always had something helpful to say, just a helpful hint, a story, something that always added to our discussion that was so wonderful. But when I got to know him better as I visited him when he was ill, what I remember is that he wanted to know about me. He cared about me. You know, he was keeping up his spirits, I don't know how, but he always remembered to check in how I was doing, and that's who he was. So, who would like to share a story? Come on up, and you can, let's see, who's doing the sound today? Oscar, could you check and get this microphone to be so that I can reach it? I don't know if it can come off of there, or, can it come down? Okay, you can just pull it down. Thank you.
I think of Leon often, and I had the privilege of getting to know him best through our work in lay pastoral care. And I just want to try and bring you back to a visual experience that you probably all had with him. If you just think about when you were in his presence, what he conveyed as he stood there before you with that little tilt of his head and that big twinkle in his eye showing such delight. You just knew that he had a loving spirit. And he had a way, I'm not even sure how he did it, but he almost hugged you without hugging you. You just knew there was such a comforting feeling. And he took his time. He wasn't on a dead run to the next conversation or the next task. He took his time to really hear you and take in what you said. And I noticed that he stood out in my memory as a person who really encouraged resilience. So those are my memories.
Thank you. I remember Leon telling me one day, as we were preparing for a Living the Pledge to End Racism workshop, that after I had shared with him about going and being part of an organization that takes pilgrimages to Mississippi and Alabama, and that I had just been in Money, Mississippi, and he said, you know, I was born the same year as Emmett Till, and that his death had a profound impact on me as a 14-year-old boy living in North Carolina. And I remember thinking, as we're standing there, we're just in the hallway out here, and I remember thinking, you know, what it might have been for him to turn inward, to be angry, to be bitter, to be afraid. And Leon did just the opposite. He took what was a horrific experience in the world, and he turned it outward and said, I will be here to bridge across the races, across the generations, across whatever bridge needed to be in place, he would build. And I'll always remember that moment when he said, you know, we were the same age, and what an impact that had on him. So I so appreciated Leon's work with the Pledge to End Racism and all the wisdom he brought, but mostly his love and his joy, and what he you always knew you were in the room with Leon. He looked right at you, he was there with you, he was asking about you, and no matter what was going on in his heart, he always had that sense of the other. And I think that some of that came from that early childhood experience of saying, this is not the world I want to be in.
Good afternoon. I'm Eveline Jones, and I'm so glad, Camille and Ethel, that you can be here with us today. Leon's smile would light up a room, and I especially, we always joked with each other about being the same year's child. We were the same age. And we would tease each other about that. But he was always there with a ready hug anytime I saw him. And some years ago, we had the privilege in lay pastoral care of companioning a couple. He, the husband, and I, the wife. And as time went on, and the husband reached the end of his life, we were in the room, he and I, the wife, the minister, to say goodbye. And that experience that we shared created a bond. We never really talked about it, but we understood that we had shared something very special. And I'll always remember that about him, and I'll miss him terribly.
Once a month, there are 3 groups of men who get together and talk and discuss about virtually everything. Those groups, the men's groups, ours has been a very big part of my life. And there are 5 other gentlemen here, 6 other gentlemen here who will testify if you ask them how much Harvey has meant to us, how much Mike has meant to us, how much Carrie has been, and all, Wayne and Doug, everybody has been a good part of that. Leon was a key part of that group, and I can only speak for myself, and I'm sure if you ask the others, they will tell you how much our lives have been enriched by being around him. He told us a lot about his life growing up in the segregated South, and he never told it with anger. He told it with forgiveness. And he was a remarkable and very significant part of our lives, and we will never, ever forget him.
I met Leon when I joined the men's small group in church, so this is timely because George broke the ice. I found him to be an intellectual in our group. Leon would research the night's topic and come prepared for a good discussion while many of us would wing it. And based on what people are saying today, I could understand that others had the same feeling that he really was an intellectual, just by hearing by him already preparing what's going to happen down the road for him. He had a wonderful sense of humor. Leon could be relied upon to make me laugh by his timely quip. Others in the group can remember that. He was an empathetic person. When I was in the hospital, he came to cheer me up, and this was already also demonstrated previously by other speakers, how he is a very empathetic person. I don't know many persons were aware that Leon was an excellent artist. I didn't know, I wasn't aware of it myself until we had a meeting at his house, and I walked in, I saw all these beautiful paintings on the wall. And I asked him, who are these artists? He said, I painted these. And I went to see a solo show of his in the Chesterfield Library and was impressed by the versatility of his paintings. As others have already said, Leon was a special person, and he is greatly missed.
I've never done this before. Because of Mike Kane, I met Leon Andrews. I met him out here in the lobby as part of the men's group that you folks refer to. And I remember standing there and thinking, how does he do that? There's a twinkle in his eye, there's this smile on his face, and I felt him hugging me, and I didn't even know the man. And I remember thinking, boy, if this is what Unitarianism is all about, I want to be one of you guys. and ended up joining the church. And I had the privilege of, Mike and I went to visit him the same day he was diagnosed. We got there just 2 hours afterwards. Only Leon Andrews would have been given that diagnosis, and he wanted to know how my eye was doing. And I said, Leon, we have far more important things to talk about. He said, no, I've had 82 years on this earth. I'm good. Let's talk about your eye. And I thought, what a one in a million kind of human beings. And I know every person in this room is better for having known Leon.
Hi, everyone. I had the privilege of being in the men's group with Leon. And one of the gifts he gave me, as was mentioned already a number of times, was to show me how to forgive. And given all that he had experienced, all the hate that he had experienced, and to be able to change that and convert that into love that he shared with all of us was a real testimony and a real gift to me. The second gift he gave me was to create a safe space in our men's group by the way he dealt with the racism that he experienced. A safe space in which I could deal with my own racism with him. And that was a beautiful gift. And I love him dearly.
So my name is Wendy DeGroat. I had the opportunity of knowing Leon at church, through lay pastoral care, and through living the pledge. But one of the first things we connected about were bright socks. We were sitting in a lay pastoral care meeting, and I was a new associate. I was very worried about whether I could do what was required of a lay pastoral care associate because I hadn't had much experience with death personally. And I was nervously sitting there, and I crossed my legs, and so he could see my socks, and I looked over, and I could see his socks, and they were bright and striped and beautiful. And he gave me this radiant smile, and then we just kind of connected from there. And I will say that one of the things that Leon taught me, along with everything else that people have talked about, and I wonder sometimes it's why his light could shine so bright from inside of him, is because he let every part of him grow, whether it was the painter side, or the writer who was writing about Central State, or the person who was the therapist, or the friend, or the dad, or the husband. He let it all flame at its brightest, you know? And then he brought that into the space he was in. So that's what I want to do, is learn from that. And I miss him too. So.
I'm Catherine Judd, a member of this church, and Leon and I were in the Pastoral Care Associates for a number of years together. And I just have to tell you that he was a shining light, a big, big candle. That smile, as Evelyn said, just lit the room, and he always had a kind word or a few kind words to share with us, and then he would smile. I will never forget him.
You've heard about Leon and lay pastoral care, and I was privileged to share with him in that. I won't add to that, but I want to add some other things. Leon and I had some touchstones in our past lives that we touched on and talked about often. One was Boston University. He and I both have doctorates from Boston. He loved Boston, as did I. He loved Boston University and its role. We talked often about Martin Luther King. We talked often about the heritage of that particular university in producing, at one time, the most black PhDs in the country. He was one of them. That was the first thing. Second thing, he and I, and this is going to surprise some of my friends, had in common Alpha Phi Alpha. I'm not an Alpha, but when Hampton Sydney decided it ought to be doing something, I volunteered to be the faculty advisor to the Alpha Phi Alpha chapter. I never learned the secrets, but I kept the group going. And I learned a lot about the Divine Nine at that point. And I even learned that Omega Psi-Phi is okay. It's all right. I want to particularly thank Camille because toward the very end of his life, she offered some of us who could do it the opportunity to have a Zoom conversation with Leon. And I was privileged to be part of that. I think I was the only one from the church at that particular Zoom meeting. But I did meet a lot of relatives, and Leon, being Leon, said, you know, these people that I'm with, they don't know about Boston University. Tell them about that. So even as he was contemplating the next stage of his life, he was always talking about connections. And I think that's the thing I'll remember about Leon, his ability to make connections across time, across space, and more particularly across cultural expectations of people who really didn't know that they had these within them. Leon was and will always be, in my mind, what the Jewish community calls a mensch. He was a real mensch, you know? And I can't say a higher thing for Leon than that. If he were here right now, he'd say, yeah, I understand it. That's pretty good.
Hi, I'm Carl Burrell, and pleasure to be here. And I am an Alpha. And so, a member of the fraternity, and I met Leon, actually, I think before he became an Alpha at his residence on Winding Way when you guys were there. And we met way back then and became fraternity brothers. And I have to tell you, I was at the time, you know, the fraternity is international. We have our local chapter, a couple of local chapters here, of which Leon and I were part of. And boy, he was our historian for a long time. And what a great historian he was. And and we always have to give a committee report. Well, you always knew, for all of you all to know Leon, the report was pretty lengthy. He went through all the details, and from a historical standpoint, he was excellent. From a brother standpoint, he was even better, right? So he was that guy that our brothers, whether old, young, just out of college, looked up to because, as you all indicated, that spirit that he had, you know. And so not only were we fraternity brothers, we were great friends. And so that lasted for, 30 years, something in that neighborhood. And he will be cherished and is cherished across from the A5A community all the way through Virginia. Will be missed and is missed, and we appreciate all the kind words on behalf of the chapter, on behalf of my family. It's a pleasure to be here and represent. Thank you.
I'm Mike King, and I was one of the men's group that Leon was in. Leon had this amazing ability. When you saw him, he would grab your hand and shake it. And you knew that you and he were the only two people in the room. That was it. It was, you know, it was just the two of you. He had that amazing ability to make this spiritual connection instantly. And another story I've got is last week I was made a lay pastoral care person at the service, and it was also the day of, how do we say that? What was it? Service? I'm sorry? Remembrance. Day of Remembrance, but it was the Mexican version is... Day of the Dead. Thank you. And one of the things in my life is that at one point I was married to a woman who was involved in hospice. So on an almost daily basis, we would talk about death and dying. And I came to realize that the fear that I'd been ingrained with as a Catholic growing up was something that I really didn't need to fear anymore, and maybe not feel so sad about, that it's just another part of life and who knows where we go. Last week, during that service, I connected with this young woman who was new. She was one of the people I just stopped by to visit. And we started talking about the service and what great service it was. She said, well, you know, I just had, my mother just died a couple of weeks ago. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I said, a really good friend of mine died about a month or so ago. And all of a sudden, the tears just started to flow. And I realized how much I miss him. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing those precious stories, because every time we hear a new story, we learn more about Leon and what a great person he was. He will be missed. Will you please stand as you're able and sing with us our final hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123. We're going to sing it through twice. you stand as we say our closing prayer. Gracious Spirit, creator of life and carrier of hope, make your presence known among us. Enable us to be brave in our remembering, honest in our sorrow, and open in love and compassion for each other. Help us not to seek so much to answer our questions, but rather the patience to mourn and to grieve. Enable us to remember with joy and with gratitude the life of Leon Andrews. We give our thanks for this life. Amen, and blessed be.
My closing words. We are glad that Leon lived. We are glad that we saw his face and felt the glow of his friendship and love. We cherish the memories of his words and deed and character. Carry him in our hearts as we go now from this place in comfort and peace, assure that even in this time of loss and sorrow, Leon's life remained precious and good. Let us honor the life of Leon by giving ourselves more nobly and lovingly in the days ahead. And as you return to the routine of your lives, go in great peace, and may the abiding peace go with you. May this be so. Amen. Ethel, Camille, and the family wish to thank you for sincerely attending Leon's celebration of life. Your expressions of kindness and sympathy during that loss was much appreciated. So after we recess, the family invite you to join them in the President's Hall for a reception where they'll receive the guests.